I know that I will not always fit in, and that's okay because I didn't really fit in America either.
Racism sometimes is something that happens because of ignorance and disinformation. So what I would say about this is that it just showcases that there's a problem with the information out there.
Konnichiwa, Sasha desu, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about what it's like to be black in Japan. I've never personally known any Japanese people to be outright racist. But then again, they're not really known for speaking their mind out loud either. So while I don't really want to sensationalize this issue, I do think it's a good conversation to have. And my two interviewees today are very thoughtful and introspective, and I think that you're really going to enjoy what they have to say. So let's get into it.
Konnichiwa, watashi no namae wa Joedu Sumito desu. Watashi wa Furansu to Doitsujin desu. Furansu no Suto Dazuguro kara kimashita. Nihon wa hajimete desu.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what brought you to Japan and how long have you been here for?
What brought me to Japan is my studies. So I study political science and international relations, and my university has a mandatory exchange program in the third year. So right now I'm in my third year, and I chose Japan because I always wanted to experience the culture. I should have lived in Japan a long time ago, but then the Fukushima catastrophe happened, so it didn't work out in the end. So I thought now I have the opportunity to come to Japan, and that's why I'm here, I guess.
Wow, and how long have you been studying Japanese for?
Well, right now officially for like 1.5 months, but I took classes 2.5 years ago. Sadly forgot everything, but I was trying to study a bit on my own, but let's say now 1.5 months of real study.
Wow, well it sounds great so far.
はじめまして、エボニーと申します。28歳で、アメリカの出身なんですが、横浜に、3年ぐらい、住んでます。今はフルタイム仕事してないんですけど、パートの仕事してて、英語のホームチューターです。そしてコンテンツ制作を集中してて、試験勉強、日本語の試験勉強も集中しております。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
So what were your first impressions of Japanese people when you first moved here?
When I first moved to Japan, my impressions of Japanese people, well, for sure the kindness. They're very kind and helpful, just willing to go out of their way, even if it meant like more work for them, which like as someone who doesn't always know what they're doing here in Japan, I'm very grateful for. One of the other impressions I have of Japanese people, which is they can't really speak English, which is fine because I speak Japanese, so no issues there. And then one of the other impressions I had of them is like they're very like quiet and shy people. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's definitely something that I've gotten to get used to. And because they're so quiet and shy, I've kind of had to like, I guess, listen harder to what they're trying to say, because not every Japanese person that I've met is like louder or like they have like a big voice per se. And then but mind you, I have met some Japanese people, like young people that, you know, are like they have a big voice, they like to put themselves out, they're very like bright and open personalities, so yeah.
And what were your impressions of Japanese people when you very first arrived here?
I thought they were very introverted, kind of shy, and very a bit in their own bubble. You can see it like on the trains, they are all quiet, all reserved, a little bit sitting by themselves. But once I got more time in Japan, I met a lot of Japanese people, and they're actually very, very outgoing. They like to talk. They're brilliant people, very nice people. So I think that Japanese people are kind of shy at first, and they need some time to adapt, since most of the time the English is not so good. But once you get to talk to them, they open up, and you meet a completely different being. That's what I recognize about Japanese people.
Have you ever felt like you're treated differently at all because of your racial identity?
Well, I've only been here for not even 2 months, so I think my judgment is a bit clouded, but I have not been treated any differently as of for now. I believe that I've been treating equally, normally, like a normal human being. But I've had the impression that sometimes I got like a few looks, but there were like more looks out of pure curiosity, nothing else. So that's just like everywhere I've been in the world. People, when they are not used to seeing someone of my profile, they tend to have to look at you in a different way. So I've not been treated any differently because of my racial background, but I think that there is still like some sort of curiosity regarding me or other fellow black people, for example.
Yeah, that's kind of a common thread that I've heard from others, that they haven't experienced any sort of outright racism, but they do get a lot of looks, and it's mostly just out of curiosity, like, oh, who is this person? They're different from us.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I think it's very normal. It's like when you have a kid who for the first time sees something new, he's like very curious, and you as a person, you might feel like don't belong here, but because the looks may seem a little bit kind of, well, weird. But at the same time, once you think about it, it's totally normal that the people look at you in a certain way if they never seen someone like you. So I believe that with just a bit of time, I will get used to it, and it doesn't really matter. I've experienced this in other parts of the world, so I know it's nothing to worry about.
Okay, I'm wondering if you have ever felt like you're treated differently here in Japan because of your racial identity.
I would say both yes and no. As loaded of a question that is, as loaded of an answer that is, it needs both sides. I would say yes, just because I think that Japanese people tend to be more used to seeing white foreigners in the media, because just seeing commercials and like media and other advertisements and stuff here, I tend to see more white foreigners, more so than like brown foreigners. And so I have been in places where, you know, I get stared at, I guess, longer per se, or more harder per se than maybe like some of my white friends that are foreigners here would get. And I think it's more of a Japanese people are not used to us kind of thing. It also could be a thing of, or it is a thing of Japanese people are just curious about us, because there's not a lot of black people here in Japan to begin with. And the ones that are here, they're either on the military bases or like doing English teaching, right? And then the other side of this is, no, I don't think I've been treated differently because of my racial identity. I think it's more of I'm treated differently because I'm a foreigner. Because I do feel like that I found a part of me, or like my place here in Japan. And I do want to be here, you know, for many, many years, I think. But I know that I will not always fit in, and that's okay, because I didn't really fit in America either. And so I think that I will probably always be treated differently, because again, this isn't my home country. This isn't somewhere where I look like the next person. So it's just makes sense in a way for me to be treated differently from the average Japanese person. But it's something that I have learned to cope with, and I'm still learning to cope with, just taking that coping process like just a day at a time, honestly.
So what's the most positive experience that you've had regarding acceptance here in Japan? I know you've only been here for a month or two, but have you really had a lot of like positivity around you?
Yeah, lots of positivity. I remember most of the times when I go to an izakaya or a restaurant with my friends, and the people are just very, very nice. They come sit with us sometimes, they ask us questions, what we do, and sometimes we even got experiences where the bartenders would ask us questions about where we're from, what we do here, what we study, and we would try to respond Japanese, and they would be like so happy that we try to speak Japanese with them. So that's it. I really love sometimes how the people are really so friendly to us on random occasions, basically.
What's the most positive experience that you've had regarding acceptance here in Japan? Does anything stand out for you?
So I would say one of the things that stands out the most for me is that I've had to do a number of things, like I guess bureaucratic adulting type things at like various offices or businesses here. And just even with living in Yokohama, it's a big city, and so Japanese people here, they're used to like foreigners not being able to speak Japanese. They themselves are, you know, ready to speak, you know, even if it's a little broken English, or they have a translator, you know, near their side. But that's not always the case. And so I've been in a number of situations, both in Yokohama and Tokyo, where I have, you know, made it clear that, oh, I can speak Japanese, and they instantly, they're just like, yokatta desu. Like, they're just like, oh, I'm glad that you speak Japanese. Like, just that look of like relief on their faces. So it just makes me happy for myself that I'm able to like speak Japanese, and like I don't have to have, you know, someone beside my side to translate, and I'm sure it makes them happy as well, because, you know, they don't have to, you know, think hard or work too hard with, you know, their maybe limited English skills to try to help me.
It relieves a lot of stress on the situation and creates friendships easier.
For sure, agreed. And then the other thing kind of related to that, I've been studying Japanese for 9 years now. And so in a number of situations, whether it's like texting, you know, businesses via line, that's kind of like the way of communication here, as well as like, you know, face to face. Once I kind of like start talking to them and use like more, I guess, advanced Japanese, they're just like, they'll say things like, oh, wow, like you speak Japanese so well, I thought you were one of us. Like, you know, talking on the phone, like you're a foreigner, like I thought you were one of us, or like you sound like, so your Japanese sounds so sophisticated, like wow, that's amazing that you've been studying so long but you've only been living in Japan for such a short period, you know, that kind of thing. So that makes me happy too.
Okay, so recently the JICA Hometown Initiative was created to foster exchange between 4 cities in Japan and 4 cities in Africa. And because of misinformation on social media, people started to believe that this was some kind of gateway to create mass immigration to cities in Japan. And so there's this huge backlash on social media, which caused, after 1 month, the JICA to cancel the whole program. I'm wondering, do you feel like this backlash has caused any social tensions between Japanese people and black people in the country?
As far as whether it caused any backlash, dang. It's hard to say, because I wish I had heard about this earlier. It probably did or has caused backlash. I mean, because if it didn't cause any backlash, I don't think a JICA would have backed out of the program. They would not have canceled the program. But because of that, the misunderstanding, I think, is what caused the backlash.
But do you think it's caused any social tensions between regular Japanese people and black people that aren't African? It could be from anywhere, but people just assume that because they're black, maybe they're part of this problem of this mass immigration.
I don't think it's caused any social tensions, per se. I want to say that there's not too much of a mass immigration of like black people or African people to begin with. So, dang. But I don't think, as far as like social tensions caused, maybe very little. I don't think it like would affect like the perception that Japanese people would have on like black people and like our, I guess, waves of immigration here. Yeah, I would honestly say like not really much social tensions have really been caused. So
Yeah, so honestly, like every time I talk to any of my Japanese friends about over-tourism or immigration to Japan, most of them really don't care. They say we welcome everybody. As long as you're cool with Japan, we're cool with you, kind of thing. Do you feel that?
I agree. As long as I think foreigners are cool with Japan, they're cool with at least trying to abide by Japan's social rules and not treating this country as a playground, which unfortunately a lot of foreigners have been doing in like the most recent years. I would say, like, if you're willing, like I said, to follow the social rules and, you know, not be a menace to society, then I think for sure, like, you're welcome here. And I agree with what your Japanese friends were saying.
I've actually heard from other black people in Japan that they are actually treated with these positive stereotypes, that some people in Japan look at them and see, oh, you're a black person, you must be a good athlete, or you must be a good singer, or you must play basketball or something. Have you ever encountered that kind of positive stereotype?
Yes, actually I have. It's been a few years, but when I came to Japan in the end of 2018, I stayed with the host family up in Tochigi Prefecture, like kind of like the countryside, not too far from Tokyo. And so one evening, I think we were kind of just like singing to the kids as a part of just kind of like entertaining and having fun with them. And the host mom was just like, wow, like you sing really well. Like you kind of remind me of like some other like black celebrities, like black singers. Like maybe it's because you know, you're black, like you sing really well, like you have that musical talent. And I just was like, I just kind of laughed it off. That's all you can do at that point. But then, like a few days later, I was just like, she really just said that. Like,
Yeah, well, nobody, anytime anyone goes to karaoke with me, they don't ever have any feelings that I'm a good singer, so. So, I've heard from other black people in Japan, they're often treated with some kind of positive stereotypes. So, Japanese people might think because they're a black person, they are really good at sports, or they're a good singer, or they can play basketball. What do you think about this, and have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, totally. Well, I totally agree with that. It's very common. What I consider even funny is that, well, it happens most of the time, even in Europe, but in Japan, I've felt it happened a lot. They often tend to assume that, well, we are fast runners or that we, well, are good at football or sports. But, well, I mean, it's just, let's say, like a nice way of what cultural stereotypes.
Yeah.
It's better than that and have like the total opposite and think like very terrible stuff about black people.
Yeah.
But even though it might not be true, like I think I'm still fast, but I'm not good at basketball, for example. That's just how we see each other through like athletes that we know. We, for example, in Europe, we have a view of Japanese people of being very, well, polite, very driven by well, the economy, etc., and that they are very good at other sports like martial arts, etc., which might not be true for every profile. But I've experienced this a little bit here, and for the moment I feel it's better to experience it that way than the other way. So that's a cool way of like interchanging stereotypes, positive stereotypes, and even though it's not true at the end, you see that your people from your culture are seen positively in other parts of the world, so I believe it's not a bad thing.
Okay, so my last question is, if any other black people might be watching this video today and they're thinking about visiting Japan or moving to Japan and they're not really too sure how they'll be treated, do you have any advice you might be able to give them in regards to that?
Only advice would be just, well, go with the flow, just live your everyday life as if you were in your home country, and you will see, as long as you're respectful to the Japanese people, you will be met with respect. Japanese people are not the most loud people who will come to you and say you are doing something terribly wrong, except if it's the police, of course. But, well, as long as you're just respectful, you follow the guidelines and the rules, nothing terrible will happen to you. You won't experience, well, likely not experience any terrible racism or anything. So just learn to know how the country is, adapt to it, and don't let this change the way you live as a person, but obviously adapt yourself to follow the rules of the country, which might be different to rules that we have at home. So that's my advice.
That's great advice. Okay, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
So finally, I'm wondering if there's anybody out there watching this video and they're curious to know about what it's like moving to Japan, visiting Japan, living here, traveling here, doing whatever. What kind of advice would you give to other black people that are thinking about that?
I think one of the major pieces of advice that I would give to other black people wanting to come to Japan, whether it's for vacation or whether you're thinking of moving here, is be prepared to be stared at. That's, I think, the biggest kind of like cultural shift you're gonna go through, at least at the very beginning. Because again, like I mentioned early in the video, Japanese people are A, not used to foreigners, and B, and they're definitely not used to black foreigners. So please understand, like, even when you're in Tokyo, like the biggest city in the world, you're gonna get stared at. And then especially if you go to the countryside of Japan, you're definitely gonna get stared at there as well. So just, you know, be okay with that. They're just staring at you out of curiosity. More likely than not, they will not harm you. And it's gonna take a lot, like being okay in your own skin in a country where there aren't many people like you. Have a lot of self-confidence in who you are as a black person, because it takes a strong-willed black person to even travel here, and even stronger will of a person to live here as a black person. So just have that self-confidence in yourself as a black person. Like, be rooted within yourself and know that it is okay to stand out in a country where others do not look like you, And it is okay, and be glad that you stand out, because, you know, I think that's what makes you, you. So if you can be okay with the staring, I think you will go far here. So
Okay, that's a great message. Thank you so much for meeting with me today.
thank you so much, Sasha.
Okay, what did you think of those interviews? I thought it was really interesting, and I think that both of my interviewees had a lot of great thoughts on the subject today. So if you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Yeah.